Hi, Isabel. Good to see you. My name is Josh, everybody. I am the Global Enrollment and Partnerships Manager for Minerva. I basically work on the enrollment team. And today we're going to talk about majoring in business at Minerva. And thankfully, I will not be talking for this whole session. So you'll stop hearing my voice soon. We have the wonderful Professor Oscar Ozluk, who I think I pronounced that correctly, and he's going to take you through all the ins and outs of majoring at business at in Minerva. Let me share my screen real quick, and we'll jump on in. Hold on, everybody. All right, share. Can I get a thumbs up? This looking okay for people? Let me make it full screen.
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. All right. Wrong button. Sorry, guys. Oh, Lord. Is this full screen for people or no? It did something weird on my end.
Not yet. Yeah. I think
Why
you
did it
need
do
to.
that? Wow. You would think after doing this, like
Yeah, go back, go to the view one. So go,
over and over
yeah.
again, I would know how to do this
Then
by
say
now.
always show enter full screen. I think no, not that.
I don't think it's that way. Let me just try one thing here. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Here we go. I got it. We're we're good. There we go. All right. Officially, we are starting. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We're going to talk about majoring in business at Minerva. Before I hand it off to Professor Osgar to really dive into all the details, we'll do a brief overview of the four-year degree pathway at Minerva, just in case people aren't familiar. So let's do that very quickly. On this slide, you'll see all of our majors and concentrations. Of course, today we'll be focusing on business, but if you would like to read more about the other majors that we offer, feel free to go to the website. There's some great content and videos and information on there. People ask all the time, can I double major? Can I major and minor? The answer is yes and yes. On this screen, this slide, you can take a look at our minors. You'll notice for business, there's a business minor opportunity. I'm going to let Professor Oscar talk about that. I also would like to draw your attention to the interdisciplinary minors. Those you can attach to any major that you'd like to take at Minerva. And our thinking is these topics here, these subjects are important no matter what you want to do. Take sustainability, for example, pretty important that we have a sustainable, livable planet, no matter what your academic goals are. And so we want to offer things that are going to tie into really any major and that we are finding more and more in demand and important, honestly, in today's world. So these are the minor opportunities. This is the four-year map, if you would call it that, at Minerva. Year one, everybody's in San Francisco, California. If you've been to San Francisco before, chat it in. I used to live close to there. It's wonderful. Perfect weather, by the way. Incredible. And that's our foundation year where everyone takes the same four core cornerstone classes, no matter what they want to major in. Those are 4 classes each semester, 33 credits. And the thinking there is we want students to have the foundational skills to thrive in any industry, again, no matter what their goals are. So I'll quickly go to this slide, actually. These are the first-year core classes. I love this about Minerva. You can read about them on this screen. And to be honest, guys, these are things that I wish people taught me when I was at university that I had to learn on the fly. Things like formal logic, things like a negotiation, things like public speaking, how to express myself. Again, I don't really care what you want to do. If you're not good at these things, you likely won't be that successful. So we want you to have those skills year one, no matter what you're intending to major in or what your career goals are. So I go back here after San Francisco, you pack your stuff up, you get in the plane with your classmates, and you might go to Taipei or Berlin or Tokyo or somewhere awesome like that. And then you'll dive into your core courses, you'll declare your major, and you'll dive into your core courses on our direction year. Year 3, you do it again and you dive into your concentration. Year 4, you're essentially doing a capstone project where the thinking is, okay, you've done all these amazing classes, you've gone to these wonderful places, had all these experiences. Now go out in the world and actually do something with it. And you'll notice in year 4 too, a lot of students are taking electives and tutorials. Again, this focus on interdisciplinary opportunities. We want you guys to have that as well. So this is the 4-year map. I'll say two off the bat. I know there will be questions coming up about Minerva in general. We're going to give people a chance to ask questions at the end. And also, I'll put my email on the screen. You can send me an email if you have any questions that are not addressed tonight, because we want to focus on business. We talked about that. And one more before I stop talking. If you are aware, not aware, the classes at Minerva take place on our virtual learning platform environment. What I tell students is that Minerva is 100% in person. The classes that are the classes are delivered on the virtual learning environment. So you're with your classmates and a Minerva team on the ground in each of these cities, and your classes are delivered here. It's very cool. It is not a Zoom call like this. It's super interactive, and the feedback from students is that, you know, they love it. You can go to your favorite cafe in Taipei and have your classes. You can stick around in the residence hall and take your classes. You can go anywhere you want. So there's a lot of freedom built in. So that's what a typical classroom looks like at Minerva, and 20 students in each seminar style class. So broad overview. Now let's dive into business. And Professor Osgur, I will kick it over to you, and just let me know when you want to change slides. We'll do it that way.
Perfect. So as Josh mentioned in his last slide, in Minerva, we look at learning as an active and interactive process, which means that in a class that's 90 minutes long, I talk maybe 15 minutes tops. So, and now we're going to do something similar. I don't necessarily want to sit down and go through slides with you. I want you to ask questions. So feel free to interject. I'm also going to ask you questions. So if you can have your full names here, I see a Zoom user and I see my account. If you can see everybody's names, that'll be great. If it's available to you, if you can turn on your cameras, I see Jihang's face, Mohammed's face, Jiheed's face. It's lovely to see your faces. So the more faces, the better. With that in mind, let me give you a quick understanding of what a business major feels like at Minerva. Like Josh said, regardless of what your major is, you all spend the first year with these cornerstone courses. And after having your cornerstone courses, you have to take major core courses where all the business students are required to take these 4 courses. And after that, you split into 6 different concentrations. And these concentrations are basically, there's 6 of them. The first 3 are based on business function, and the last 3 are based on business size. So if you look at the list, you have brand management, strategic finance, and managing operational complexity. That's all about how do you look at marketing of a company, finance of a company, and operations of a company in a very thoughtful manner. It is not, the titles are typical to any business college, but our curriculum is much different. You will see in a moment. And then the last 3, new business ventures, scalable. No, we're still here on the slide. I'll tell you, Josh.
My finger slipped.
No problem.
There we go. Okay.
And the last 3 here are basically new business ventures, scalable growth, and enterprise management. What we do there is, the first one, new business ventures, is what does it feel like running a startup? What type of decisions you make for a startup? And the next one is scalable growth. Well, now that you're a successful startup and you're slowly growing, how do you manage that growth phase? It's a totally different experience than the startup phase. And then the last one is enterprise management. Now you're Coca-Cola, you're Amazon. You can kick back and you are now in a complete different ball game, and you need to figure out how to remain relevant, how to grow better than. And in addition to these concentration courses, whichever concentration you choose, you will have 3 concentration courses. You will have a business practicum. Business practicum is a fancy way of saying a very thoughtful internship. What you will do is, as a business student, you'll have to do a business internship, but we put our own spin on it, and we make it Minerva, we make it intentional, so that you actually not only have the internship, but you also keep reflecting on how it is relevant to your personal growth, how it is relevant to your career goals, and all that. So in addition to these 32 major requirements, you also need to take some electives. And the cool thing about Minerva is 20 of these electives need to be outside of your major, because we believe in T type of people. We don't believe in I type of people. You know, I type of people are very deep in one thing and they have no clue what's going on in the rest of the world. T type of people, they're focused on one thing, but they also have a long arm. So that's why we want you to have your arms wide open, ready to receive the world from many perspectives. So any questions here? By the way, when I get excited, I speak very fast. So if you want me to slow down, just please raise your hands. All right, so no questions. We move on to the next one. I may ask questions. Oh, Ali Khan has a question. Ali Khan, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. Like how frequent are the internships in
Perfect.
in academics?
Yeah.
Because I'm really interested in it.
So the idea, Ali Khan, is we encourage the students to start internships even the first summer, the summer of the freshman year. But at least as business students, at least one of those you have to take the practicum course, so you actually add another layer to it. But internships, we want you to do them as often as possible. In fact, there are even students who try to do internships during the semester if their load allows. So does that answer your question, Ali Khan?
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Abdullah, I feel like your hand was up. Was it? Or okay, perfect. So as I've told you, after the cornerstone year, the first year, in the second year, you get core courses. And in the core courses, the idea is let's try to understand the basics of running a business, regardless of which function you're in, regardless of what size of an organization you're in. And here you basically are looking at basics of marketing, basics of finance, basics of how to run a business in different geographies, and also just looking at some operational stuff. So that's second year. And again, all business students take these 4 courses. And then we go on to the concentration. So we can move on to the next slide. So very quickly, I'm not going to go through all of these in detail, but we'll record these presentation and you can actually go through the slides once more. And if you want, you can ask questions today. If you want to look at the presentation later and reach me, Josh, or Alina, or anybody else at Minerva later on, you're always welcome to do so. You can even add me on LinkedIn if you want to kind of reach me out in that direction. I'll be very happy to answer questions. So let's talk about brand management. As we have shown you, for each concentration, you have 3 courses that you have to take. And other than that, you can actually add more. For brand management, you need to look at, as you can see, it's all 3 courses are focused on brand. And remember, I told you that we look at 3 parts of the life cycle of an organization: startup, growing enterprises, and large enterprises. The brand management classes are in that order. The first one is, can you identify a need in the market and develop a product for it? The second part is, now that you are a brand, can you become a leader? And then the last one is, now that you're mature, can you let your brand evolve and reinvent yourself and become the best and keep remaining the best? So this is brand management. Anybody here is interested in brand management, marketing in general? Let's see a raise of hands. This is usually the most fun one. So by the way, I'm the ops professor, so we always get like relatively fewer students. So I'll tell you in a moment, ops is a great one too. But Jihang, tell me why you're interested in brand management. If you don't mind, just a few words. It doesn't need to be very.
Okay, hello. So first, thank you for pronouncing my Chinese name right. It's really impressive that I don't need to correct anyone's pronunciation. So, because now I am enrolled in a French business school, so I always know I want to do business in the future.
Right.
And brand management is for me like a perfect way to know how to build a company and successfully like scale up the business.
Yeah, I mean, without a good solid brand, no company can become successful, right? So any company that will succeed needs to have, like, imagine if a company is really successful, you will know that company just by the tint of the color, right? The Coke color, you cannot see that color and just not think about the idea of Coke. So that's a great direction to go, Jiang. I'm happy for you. Let's continue to the next slide. So what do you do in these classes? First of all, in any class, you do a lot of interesting hands-on exercises. For the brand management classes, you actually do something like a brand book where you actually role play in which you are a junior brand strategist and you try to figure out how can I implement a brand book for my company. And this is an iterative process. This is an interactive process. It's really fun to see how these evolve over the course of a semester, over the course of a year. And at the end of the 4 years, as Josh mentioned, there are several students who do their capstones in this. There's one student who did a piggy bank savings app for Gen Zs that kind of is a cute branding that forces and incentivizes people to save money. And obviously, I don't need to mention to you the careers you can have, but you can be a digital marketer, you can be a consumer insights analyst. It's a really important field. Let's go to the next slide. The next concentration I'm going to talk about is this life cycle concentration. If you are an enterprise, large enterprise, what do you need to focus on? And this time we look at how do you look at the brand of the mature enterprise? How do you look at a global finance strategy? Because now you're large, you're in multi locations. And then how do you optimize your business? I'm an ops person, so I'll talk about the optimization more. In an optimization setting, the enterprise is so large that you're now trying to squeeze the next cent. You want to make sure that you're super profitable and every cent, every dime matters. And we try to create mathematical models that actually help you build cost savings and productivity increasing mechanisms. Let's continue. One example here is actually you can think of being a senior manager at a large company and you figure out, how do I revitalize my business? How do I innovate? How do I do M&As, mergers and acquisitions for this company? And again, it's very applied. One student, for example, in the past looked at the aviation industry in Vietnam, which is very mature, and they tried to see how you can actually make it better by looking at the logistical study of this. And if you take this concentration, you could be a management consultant, account executive, project manager. It's really, really interesting. And what is interesting about this concentration and the few I'll show you is you don't really see these in typical business schools. You see the finance and you see the marketing concentrations, but these ones are much more differently structured. And I think they're actually fairly well-rounded. Let's continue. The next one is obviously my personal favorite because it's the concentration I teach. I developed all the courses for this one. It's called Managing Operational Complexity. The idea is you're trying to figure out how to manage risk, how to reduce costs while maximizing your output, maximizing your productivity, and maximizing your revenue. So, and again, you look at this in stages. In the first course here, business operations, you look at how do you manage the processes from inception to early growth. You have limited resources. You don't really know what your demand is going to be like. How do you run the company then? How do you make quantitative decisions when there is no numbers to work with? In the next stage, business systems, your company is now slowly growing. You need to figure out how to use your limited resources for supply chain, for quality management, for outsourcing, and then keep the company growing. And the last one, business optimization, which I told you about a moment ago, is you are a large enterprise now. Your next goal is how to, using all the data you have, using all the force you have, how to strategize and run your operations the best. Let's continue, Josh. In operations, for example, one thing we do is we look at future trends, and we basically look at, for example, how artificial intelligence will actually change decision making. and we ask the students to take a look at different companies and examine their AI strategies and how they use an AI in operational decisions. For example, one capstone example here is one student actually looked at Kenya and how do you create a business model to increase mental health awareness in Kenya? And they try to look at it from an operational perspective. How can you find the right logistics to create this? If you choose this particular track, you can be a supply chain manager, you can be a systems analyst, enterprise architect, anyone who's interested in this particular one here. Oh, Jahang is going to do double concentration. Abdullah, tell me why this is interesting to you.
The supply chain management.
Yes.
So I've taken up business as a subject in my high school. The most intriguing part for me was basically the operations section, not the financial one, not the marketing one. So I started looking into it. Why is it so interesting for me? And I started being a part of different startups, internships, and I took part in more of operation management kind of things, not on the marketing side or the financial side. And my interest grew over time and just managing things, managing the risks, everything, basically calculating the things more in a practical way, not on
Nice.
paper, like financially, on the
Nice.
ground, on the field, right?
Yes.
That's more interesting for me.
I love it. I feel like I'm speaking to myself when I was in high school, Abdullah. I feel like I'm going to see you in my classes in 3 years, and I'm really, really excited already. So thank you for that. Let's
Hopefully.
continue, Josh. New business ventures, again, it's about the startup phase of the organization. You look at branding and venture capitals and venture initiation and business operations for with new businesses. How do you, again, look at the beginning of a startup? How do you deal with it? Let's continue. Josh. And here, your probably potential careers is you can be an entrepreneur, you can be an experience designer, you could be a product manager in organizations, because we can, especially sometimes large organizations will try to start new products and they want to do it just like a new enterprise. So you can be a entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur at a large mature enterprise, which is a safe place to be in as a product manager. Anybody here is interested in their own startups, already have their startups maybe? Jiang, I love it. Ramit, you tell me, why are you particularly interested in this? Why are you interested in the startups, Rami?
Thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk. I'm from Algeria and I took part of one exchange program in the United States that was mostly about social entrepreneurship. And then when I came back to my home country, Algeria, I started looking for all the changes where I can be an entrepreneur, but at the same time have a goal, or make change at least in my society.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like the most is the schooling system and schooling business in general. So that's how I had the chance to start my own schooling business that I'm still running, still figuring it out. That's how I found out my passion most of the time.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
One thing I can also say about business professors at Minerva is we all have different type of job experiences. For example, I had a startup that ran for 3 years. I call it my most successful failure because I was given 300,000 seed money to have a startup for smart city applications and try to sell them in Turkey. Obviously, Turkey is not an easy place to sell smart city applications, especially dealing with the government. But I learned a lot, and I always tell the students, like, you can learn a lot from the books, but when it comes to entrepreneurship, you also need to hit the ground running like Rami did and just try to get your hands dirty. So thank you, Rami. Let's continue. This one is scalable growth. Again, this concentration is focused on how do you grow burgeoning, how do you grow a new company. So you're just off the startup phase. You now know you have a customer base, but you want to keep it growing. You want to increase your market share. How do you do that? We look at how you can strategically focus your brand, how you can actually create value and do better capital allocation, and also how do you manage your inventory, how do you manage quality, making sure that you enhance your competitiveness. Let's continue. Again, there's a lot of fun assignments in like most our concentrations. Sometimes we have these assignments called growth hacks, where we ask the students, take an idea and try to grow it for the entire semester. So if you have your own company idea, you can actually use this to make that idea bigger. You also run that idea by 20 smart students like you, a few relatively smart professors like us. So it's a really fun environment to be in. And again, here you can be a growth manager, you can be a business developer. There's lots of fun opportunities, career opportunities here. Let's continue, Josh. And just between us, my worst topic, I always failed in finance, but luckily I'm not teaching these, so you're in good hands. Our finance professors are great. We talk about finance. How do you think about finance when you're a small startup? How do you get that venture capital? How do you allocate that properly? Then we look at how do you create value? How do you actually create a global financial strategy as you're growing larger and larger and larger? Let's continue. Just curious, how many people are very excited about finance? I won't hold any judgment. Layal, did I see your hand?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. So I have never been the best at maths, but my father is an economist.
Oh,
And
lovely.
when the time came for me to have my own startup, I applied for Startup Nation funds. I had to understand a lot more advanced. Your background is full of hearts.
Yes, because I love what you're talking about. I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. Like when I was 16, my biggest accomplishment was I could tie my shoes by myself. And you guys are talking about startups. You guys are talking about like these amazing things you've done. That's why it fills my heart with joy. Go ahead, Layal.
Oh, thank you so much. We do have a lot of tools to be able to learn faster. I'd say we have access to a lot of information, so we want to use it.
Nice.
But yeah, seeing that I had to learn something which was so complex so fast, I had to learn how to enjoy it. And it became something very interesting to me to know exactly where the money is going, why is it happening, how can you improve it. I love systems and I love clarifying and
Yeah.
making things more efficient. So I
Yeah.
think economy is exciting.
Yeah. And I think that's one thread you will find at Minerva. That's one of the capstone courses, complex systems. I mean, cornerstone courses. We all love systems thinking. We think that systems kind of have a lot of emergent properties you can't guess. But if you are really creative thinker and critical thinker, you will actually be able to analyze the system and figure out what could emerge sooner than most other people. So I'm really excited to hear all that. Ahmed, you also had your hand too. Do you want to quickly talk about your finance interest briefly?
No, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's continue then, Josh. So as Josh told you, in the third year, typically you take all these concentrations, whichever one you prefer. In Juhang's case, you're going to take all 12 courses, obviously. And then the last year, you're going to do something called the capstone project. This is relatively unique to Minerva. And I like the physical concept here. Remember, the first year courses are called cornerstones, and the last year course is called capstone project. This is like how you build a very strong structure. It's literally in architecture, the bottom stones are called cornerstones, and the top finishing stones are called capstones. So what we want you to do is we want you to think about your 3-year journey at Minerva and all you have learned. And we want you to spend most of your 4th year focusing on your capstone project. This is a major project that you spent a lot of time and energy on. And our goal is for you to focus something that is you are very passionate about. This could be your startup idea. This could be your social entrepreneurship idea. This could be a business that you want to run or business you want to contribute. Or let's say you want to work for Amazon and you want to really have a strong portfolio about Amazon's operations. Then you can actually do your capstone on Amazon operations. And when you apply for that job interview, you know exactly what you're talking about. So I usually tell students the capstone project should have two important features. One, it should be something you absolutely love because you're going to keep seeing it day in, day out for an entire year. And then two, it should serve you well in your job applications. You should be able to say, here is what I have done for the last year, day in, day out. This is the only thing I thought about. You have to hire me. You'll be a fool not to hire me and hire anybody else. So, and then with that, I'm going to pass the baton to Josh. Thank you for listening. We'll have time for questions, but Josh, do you want to add anything?
Sure. I want to echo what Professor Oscar was saying about, he said he was filled with joy listening to you guys. I have a little bit of a different reaction where I feel bad about my life choices as an adult hearing you all speak. So I'm just going to throw that out there. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you guys so much for being so engaged. And I get so excited every time I learn more and more about what we do at Minerva. So thank you so much. If you are thinking about applying this year, if you're in grade 12 or you graduated, please do so. No reason not to. And with the Minerva application, guess what? It's always better to start early. There's no reason not to. So please do that. We'll help you through it. We'll support you through that process. There's my email. You can take a picture of it, memorize it. That's impressive. You can memorize my email because my last name is long. So go for it. If you want to scan that QR code, I think that's a little redundant because you're registered for this event. So if you want to, you can. But please stay in touch with us. Thank you so much. And let's do questions now.
Yeah, let's stop the presentation so we can all see each other larger.
Okay.
Any questions, anyone? I mean, I'd love to answer your questions. It's a bit late in Turkey. It's around 9:30, but I'm still not that sleepy, so I'll be happy to take some questions. If you don't have questions, I can very easily ask you questions. So,
Aliana, do you want to add something real quick?
I actually wanted to kick us off with a question. Alejandro, if you want, you can go first, and then I can ask mine.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. First of all, this is also like almost 12 a.m. in Kazakhstan. It's very late. And thank you for the presentation, Professor Özgür. And my question is about business approach in different cities. For example, we will in Minerva we study at Berlin, in Tokyo, Buenos Aires. How we gonna mix all the country experience, all the new countries experience with our business ventures? And
I'll briefly talk about it, and I'm sure Alina will have things to add. So typically, every city have managers called city experience managers. Their main job is to make sure that the students have a chance to practice what they have learned in the class in different settings in their cities. So this could be a meeting with an entrepreneur in Berlin. This could be visiting a factory in Buenos Aires. So we try to give students opportunities. And also in every class, Ali Khan, you have something called location-based assignments. Every course, you will have one assignment where you have to do something based on your location, which gives you a chance to apply what you learned in that course to the settings of your city. For example, I have one fun one where I teach about pricing strategies and pricing management. I tell students, pick a coffee chain and go to the different neighborhood coffee shops and see how the coffee products are priced and investigate why the prices are different or the same in different neighborhoods. So it's a very simple one. But we also had students, let's say, going to Deutsche Bank and then talk to the CEO of Deutsche Bank in Berlin. Alina, if you want to add anything.
No, I think you put it together really, really well. One thing that I think is important to understand about Minerva is that we see ourselves as an ever-growing organism. And while we have a lot of these different examples of civic projects and location-based assignments, every single year and every single semester is actually going to be different. And so these are great examples, but definitely expect to have something innovative for your class in every single location. But yeah.
Perfect. Anything else? Any other questions? Go ahead, Shihan.
So first, I want to ask about the internship. Like, how would Minerva help us to find internships? Because I'm currently in a French business school, and we're also assigned to have a summer internship for my first year. But so far, the school didn't like really guide us through about the process of applying internship for the first time. So now I feel like a bit lost and nervous now, like how I could get an internship for the first time, and
Yeah.
I would like to know how would Minerva help the students.
I will again give my perspective, and then Alina and Josh may want to add. Feeling nervous and looking for an internship is part of the process, Shihang. So it's like what we do is we are like parents who ask the kid to jump in the pool, and we don't hold them, but we watch very carefully from a distance. And the moment we feel like there's something urgent help needed, we reach out. So with that in mind, we have a center for career development, and they give you general guidance, but they will not hold your hand and find your internship in most cases, but we will give you support. And I personally tell the students, for example, let's say Isabel is looking for an internship or a job. I tell Isabel, if you see a company you like, go look at a few people there, and if you see them, if you see any of them as my first connection, talk to me. I will introduce you so that I can give you a leg up between people. So, if you guys want to add anything, Elena and Josh.
I have a lot of things to add, and thank you so much for asking this, Jihan. There is, I think, that overarching philosophy that's important to understand about Minerva. We designed the university of the 21st century, and we designed it from scratch. There is a lot of reasons for that, and we wanted to make sure that whatever model we come up with is going to be relevant for the 21st century. We built the university from basically the ground up, and there were a lot of things that we wanted to include to really enhance the students and their maturity. So a lot of the things that you will see at Minerva, the loan structure, a part of it being a part of the financial aid, the fact that we don't have cafeterias, the fact that we don't have libraries, the fact that we don't have medical centers, the fact that we don't just give employment and, internships to the students. All of these things are actually connected, and they're connected in that intentionality of the university to really grow a sustainable, mature adult who is able to use their resources and really build the best possible life for themselves. We don't believe in you just going to a university for 4 years, receiving a piece of paper, and then just trying yourself in the workplace, in the market. We want for you to have the skills. So if you're looking to get into a place that is actually going to teach you how to fish, that is actually going to focus on helping you grow and develop those skills by yourself, because in 4 years you will graduate. And this is something that we foundationally believe in. If we couldn't do anything else, we have to give you the passion, the skills and tools to contribute to the problems that you're passionate about. And we have to give you just the overall, which is actually a huge part of the integrated learning courses as well, the overall foundation for you to stand strong on your both feet in this world and to actually be able to use the resources of this world. Even travel is a part of that. This is why we don't have the traditional campuses and all of these additional pretty artificial systems, because we want to some extent hold your hand, but also to let you swim and to let you fly and to let you actually build all of those resources for you. Because as practice shows, this is how you become successful once you graduate from an institution. And for the past 10 years, this is what we've been doing.
Okay, thank you for answering the question.
Perfect. Any other questions? Go ahead, Abdullah, and then we'll go to Jihi.
So basically, how you elaborated on Elena, how you elaborated on the fact that you do not prepare students with just a piece of paper after 4 years. I love that. So I have a specific question: that how do we balance the academic rigor and the extracurricular environment? and the involvement, because there's global rotation all around the 4 years. We're moving to different cities and everything. And the second follow-up question is that how do you foster that community sense of community among students, because we're just constantly traveling for like 8 semesters around the world.
Do you guys want me to take that, or
Sure, you can. And if I have anything to add, go ahead, Alina.
All right, fantastic. These are great questions, Abdullah. So talking about, let me start from the community, because I feel like it very much ties with, again, the whole idea of Minerva, and it really shows, the things that we've been doing quite successfully, might I add. When it comes to building community at Minerva, I think a lot of it really does come naturally. You will be traveling with the same community to multiple places. It's not going to be 8 cities. It's not going to be, it used to be 7 cities, but at this point in time, we're actually in an interesting stage in our development as a university. So you might be faced with a program that actually is a little bit different in terms of what the rotation is going to be looking like. And unfortunately, this is the external factors that might be contributing to that. So I wanted to highlight that part of the fact that there is a certain level of ambiguity around what the locations are going to be like, but unfortunately, these are the factors that we have very little control over. We'll keep you posted on how the rotation is going to be looking like, but this is something for everyone here to really be aware of and understand that because of these external factors, we might need to do some tricks and sort of like edits to the program itself. However, when it comes to the bigger picture, the way that the community is built is, first of all, the students are traveling together, and that's a huge, huge part of it. Imagine you traveling together with 200 students coming from 60 to 70 different countries that come from so many different backgrounds, but at the same time, you really are quite similar because you've been selected through a very similar lens. You've all been selected through a lens of the university looking for people who are very intellectually curious. So everyone who you're going to have in the class is going to be curious about a lot of different fields, a lot about different things. Even the people at the school, I heard that you're interested in multiple concentrations and in multiple things. You're interested about doing, double majors. This is going to be your whole class and your whole community that is genuinely just interested about the world, and you're going to be interested about going to explore certain things about the city itself or the culture or the history and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing we were looking for. Second thing we're looking for in our students, and it's all going to make sense once I tie it down. The second thing we're looking for is students that are self-sustainable. So everyone who is going to be in that class is going to be very geared towards their growth and development and really taking their own strengths and putting them into sort of like the success of their academic pursuits. The third one, and that's my favorite one, because I used to have issues with that at the beginning, was basically making the world a better place. And I come from a culture where that's a very loud statement to say, so I didn't necessarily believe it at first when I came, but then once I started dissecting that message, basically what it means is that we're looking for students who are looking to actually solve problems here and today. So a lot of our students are actually passionate about their communities, the issues that are around them, and they're looking to get an education to really help them go and effectively contribute to the things that are passionate about. Now imagine that you are in a community of people that come from different backgrounds, different religions, different ethnic backgrounds, different personal stories, whatever that may be, but you're all connected by that same vibe of what the students represent in terms of their passions, interests, and so on and so forth, that quality. Which is, again, quite different if you compare that to the traditional system. I get to talk a lot about the difference between the traditional system and the Minerva system. In the traditional system, universities are usually looking for GPAs and test scores and, like some of your grades and so on. Minerva looks for completely different things. And so this is the community that you will be living together with. You live together and logistically, that looks like you are living together in the same residence hall. So you're going through a lot of these experiences that you're either designing for yourself or they're designed for you by the university. So Minerva's Student life team actually works together with academic team to a certain extent, but also there's a lot of, these additional experiences that are designed by the student life team. And so going through this experience, of course, is going to build naturally a very, very strong community.
Yeah.
One thing about us is that we don't create those artificial competitions that you would see in some of the other top institutions. We are not trying to put students together. Not together, against each other. We're not trying to make this artificial competition between you. We actually believe that everyone has their own, strengths and passions. So that's the answer to your first question in terms of building the community. In terms of balancing extracurriculars and the academic experience, and I love that question because I think it really, again, shows what Minerva is. A lot of that is intersected. The Minerva, and the reason why we have our learning on the platform, there's several reasons for that. But one of the reasons is that we wanted to get out of that mindset that the whole learning happens in the classroom. Because in the traditional systems, that's what it is. You come to a class, you listen to the professor, you read the book, then you close the book and you go and you live your life. Very rarely you actually go into sort of like environments or pre-designed situations where you actually have to apply what you just learned in class to the real world. At Minerva, we wanted to make sure that the system that is built for you is actually creating a connection between your academics and your real life. And so some of the extracurricular activities are actually going to be tied to the academics. Some of them, because of the things that we teach, will actually be tied whether you like it or not. So with the habits of mind and foundational concepts, you will start thinking in the Minerva language. And so you will start sort of like dissecting your reality through some of the lenses that we offer. But that idea of taking your academics and really transferring them almost immediately into the real world is how we manage to build a sort of like a cohesive full circle moment for you in all of that. That being said, Minerva is tough. This is why we have such a low acceptance rate. This is why we're so selective, is because it's not a very easy experience. And I don't want to paint, rainbow around all of this, because it is definitely a very unique, fantastic, but very, very demanding experience. I'm going to stop talking now because I get paid to talk about Minerva. I can't talk about Minerva for a really long time. But
yeah,
yeah.
I'll add a few things that will hopefully try to answer both your questions. So I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, Minerva is what we would like to call the intentional university. We basically wrote a book about the university before we start the book. And one thing that, again, as an operations person, I always think about logistically, how are you going to do community? How are you going to balance things out? For example, Abdullah, in Minerva, Fridays, there are never classes. And one reason for that is Fridays for community building, Fridays for about extracurricular activities, Fridays about doing things that actually bring you together. In addition to that, at almost every stage of your Minerva experience, you'll have very unique rituals. One of them is going to be, for example, at the very first year, you're going to have something called bread breaking, where you actually gather around one loaf of bread and just break it into pieces and share with people, so that you actually know that you're now joining a new community, like Alina said, a very unique set of individuals who have the goal of changing the world for a better place. So I'm really excited that hopefully some of you will join us with that ambition. Jihi, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question. Thank you so much. And so while I'm also like interested in business and like hoping to pursue my own startup in the future, I'm really also interested in psychology. So I would love to pursue like a double degree major in business and psychology at Minerva. But I was wondering how does like the double degree program work, and how can Minerva help me apply psychology to business and business to psychology? Because I would love to go into like the marketing field. So also like and I'm also like curious about like why are we so influenced by like those advertisements, and why do we do like those impulsive shopping and stuff?
Lovely.
So how can Minerva help me with that
I'll
double
give you
degree?
my 2 cents, and then Lena and Josh will add too, I'm sure. First of all, personally think the double major is not great for everyone, but you will find a lot of double majors in Minerva. Like I think maybe 60%, 70% of our students are doing a double major. And what we do is, if you are taking a double major, you saw, Jihi, in the business concentration, you can take a lot of electives outside of your concentration. So you can actually choose some of those from psychology. So you can actually do a double major without actually taking too many courses, which you would in some other institutions, typical institutions. The other one is the capstone is a really great place. In the capstone, the last year, when you have your year-long project, double majors are encouraged to take a double perspective on what they're looking at. So you'll look at marketing and psychology at the same time, and you will be encouraged to actually probably have a professor, a marketing professor and a psychology professor advising you at the same time. So it's a perfect place for double majors. Although I'm against it because I think you should just have more fun when you're young. Go ahead, Alina.
I think you said it all. The way that the US education is structured in general is that, and this is what we sort of like are trying to show in some of the first slides of these presentations, is that you actually are taking the sort of like pre-required courses in the first year that are required for all of the majors. So you would be taking the core courses first. In the second year, you're taking the courses from a particular major, but they have to do with the whole major. So you're not focusing on the concentration just yet. So the way that it works is that in the first year, first of all, you will have the chance to actually take courses from, I mean, it's only 4 courses, but they do have a very strong connection with one major or the other. So you will actually have a brilliant opportunity to learn about all of the academic offerings at Minerva on that first year, right? So you will have a very good understanding of to look around and really understand what you want to study moving forward. In the second year, you will start choosing your major. So you will start taking all of the courses from that particular major. And this is where you can start looking at something that can either be an elective, because all of students have to take an elective for whatever it is that you're studying. It's a part of the program. So it can either be your elective or it can be a class from your second major. So the way that, again, the US system is built is that you will still, at least in the liberal arts and sciences system, you will still need to take multiple classes that are outside of your major. You can either be much more strategic about them, and they would have to come from social sciences, and then that way you would be able to, do the double major, or you can just take multiple things and, as Guru was saying, like really exploring and having fun with it. It will really depend on how strategic you would have to be and how sort of like focused you would have to be with taking particular classes. I hope that makes sense. You can also do a major and a minor. So you can still major in management, for example, and then you can do a minor in neuroscience or minor in psychology, which would be like the cognition, brain, and behavior. You can take some of those classes.
Perfect. Thank you, Alina. We'll have time for, I think, 2 more questions. Let's go back to Jihan. Go ahead, Jihan.
Hello, I'm asking a second question.
Oh, no, please. It's always, what happens is usually your question might be the question of somebody else who doesn't raise their hand. So we'll welcome all the questions. Thank you so much.
So for the first year, who will be teaching us? Because these are not the typical subject that people can get a certificate to teach, and also later in the third year, how many teachers are there in one concentration? And are they from a more practical background? Like, for example, they run their own company, or like more academic, like university professors?
Yeah, I will tell you first about the cornerstones the first year and then the business faculty. The cornerstones are taught by a group of faculty. It's multiple sections, and these faculty are from different backgrounds, and it's again intentionally so that they can bring their own perspectives. Every week, the faculty meets and decides how that week's class is going to be taught in very significant detail, so that you actually get a very interesting perspective on all these topics. And like you said, it's things that most people wouldn't have seen in their education, but we make sure that we have faculty who are rounded enough to kind of give you perspective on all these. Business faculty is a mix of people who have run their companies in the past, who still have their companies, who are also academically very qualified, either still very active academically or have published a lot in the past. So it's a mixture of, which I think a business faculty should be. It's a mixture of a lot of business experience / a lot of academic rigor and a lot of academic strength. So I hope that answers your question. Perfect. Any other questions? I think we can take one more before we call it a night, day, afternoon, morning. Alina, go ahead.
I still want to ask my question. I'm sorry. I will stay behind and answer all of your questions about Minerva. I'm happy to do that, but we do have to get, to let Professor Özluk continue with, with what he's doing. But I do have a question, and this is a lot of the conversations that I have to have in my job. Where do you see the differences between the traditional education system versus, and you have a very broad experience. You taught in the States, you taught in Turkey. I think you also have, you shared that you have a practical experience as well. So where do you see that difference in the way that we teach at Minerva versus the traditional education system? Professor Özluk?
Oh, sorry. I was actually, somebody wrote to me in the chat and I was trying to read. Ahmed, you had a question. Do you want to ask your question to everyone? Because I was trying to read his question. Sorry, Alina. I didn't even know that you were asking me. I thought you were asking the students. That's why I was like, oh, let me answer
I was
something.
asking you the question, but let's hear Ahmed's question and then I will ask
Ahmed,
you.
let's hear your question and then sorry. Ahmed, can you ask your question here? Because Ahmed was asking me about the program and if the time needed for the degree, and I was telling him this is a 4-year university degree, like any other university degree. We are accredited, the US degree. So Ahmed, I don't know if you have any other questions.
I mean, I don't really know what is the goal of this process.
What is the goal of what, Ahmed?
Yeah, the goal.
The goal of what? The university or this particular call?
I mean, I don't really understand the goal of this meeting.
What I will ask you, Ahmed, is Josh gave his email, so maybe you can write to him and then actually you can have a longer discussion, because I feel like maybe this might take more time than we wanted. So if you can do that, I will really appreciate it. Alina, can you give me a short version of your question? Now, I promise I'll listen this time.
Absolutely. Given your experience, you taught in the
Yes.
States, you taught in Turkey,
Yeah.
you have your own practical, very strong
Yeah.
experience. What do you see is the biggest difference in how we teach at Minerva versus how it's done in the traditional system?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, first of all, the selection process is very unique. And since it's very unique, we get a very positively unusual bunch of students who all have a very deep curiosity for the world. So that the students are a wonderful part of the equation. The second one is, I don't think I have been in an institution where everything is so well thought out, intentional, as I've said. Secondly, the faculty also, we have a very eclectic faculty from all over the world. Again, it's diverse. The backgrounds are diverse. The experiences are diverse, and then the way we teach. The teaching pedagogy that we are using is fairly unique and fairly innovative. And it's innovative, but we also have constant meetings, for example, with faculty. I just had a meeting with some faculty yesterday, and we were like, how can we go further? How can we make our teaching, our pedagogy more innovative? What can we add for the students to make them more prepared, better prepared for the future that's ahead? So I would basically sometimes I think, if I were to leave Minerva, where would I work? And I don't have an answer for it. I don't think I can find a better place. And I'm not joking, anyone. Like this is, I'm not getting paid to say this, although I'm getting paid monthly, but that has nothing to do with it. I love this job. I love the students. And I mean, I can already see some of
can I
you,
use your
I can already see some of you as
I'm
potential
sorry.
Minerva students. So I hope that answers the question, Alina.
Absolutely, it does. Thank you so much for your time. As I mentioned, I will stay behind to answer any of the Minerva questions. I'm not sure if Josh has the opportunity to do that, but
I will so link, you can add me on LinkedIn. I put my email in the chat. You feel free to reach out to me. I will try to answer the questions that I can. If not, I will forward you to the right person at Minerva. And again, I look forward to seeing some of you, maybe Abdullah, in my classes in 3 years. Bye, everyone.
thank you for coming to join us.
Thank
All
you.
right. So, what else is lingering in the air? Is that the right thing to say? I'm not sure. English is not my first language, but what other questions do we have? How else can we help you learn about Minerva?
Yeah, I have a question. Like Alina, what about the culture, like cultural approach in Minerva, like standing behind from the business, any like the events or like traditions that stays behind, like yeah, that's also the interesting part because we also need to play hard instead of working hard, like sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, that really depends on what you mean by playing hard. I don't want to encourage some of the hard playing here, I think, but there's definitely a lot of sort of like culture that is being based. Josh, I see there's uh, a lot of gestures on your side. Do you want to take this one, or do you want me to share some of the things?
No, I just want to say I like this guy, but go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like that would be the growing out. But when it comes to some of the cultural events, first of all, if we're talking like intercultural activities, we do have what is called the 1001, which is basically like an exchange of cultures. There is going to be an evening that is specifically dedicated to a particular culture, and the students from that country would be, cooking the food and representing their own country and their own culture, and so on and so forth. And so, from the name, I'm assuming you're from Kazakhstan, and we do have a lot of students from Kazakhstan. I mean, it's just a wonderful opportunity to really share, your culture from your particular perspective. So that's very big at Minerva. We do have a number of events that have to do with the city itself. So there is some sort of like an orientation event every time you come into the new city. There is various activities, starting from things like scavenger hunt, ending in the sort of like a mini conference where you get to meet professionals from various fields in that same city. There's a number of those. There are bigger and longer, I wouldn't call them events, but they're more like projects. So we do have civic projects in all of the cities where you actually get to work in teams to really contribute to the issues that a particular organization might be having. So there's a lot of that going on. Student clubs are also quite big at Minerva, and I know that there's a lot of confusion when the students think about student clubs. But in our case, I think our student clubs are actually much cooler than what you would find in the traditional system because you get to integrate with the city. So, for example, we did have students that I think it was the first ever inter-university hackathon that was done in California or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but it was like a very big event that students did. And that was not on the university level, but it was actually on the city level. I know that students, in various countries like to do activities that are significant to that particular culture. So Buenos Aires has a lot of sort of like tango lessons, and there's a lot of meat eating, I know, and a lot of different activities that have to do with that particular city. In Berlin, there's a lot of sustainability focused projects that the students are doing. So it's actually a very, very sort of like rich life that the students are living outside of their academics as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. I heard about the 1001 actually from my Kazakhstan friends. So,
Oh, of course you
yeah,
have.
yeah,
Here we had like 30 students from Kazakhstan. Of course you did.
we'll be glad to join it later.
All right, Laya.
Thank you for the previous answers. I was also wondering the same thing. My question is if there are any networking driven events where Minervan students can meet people from their uh, major, like professionals outside of faculty members and community.
Yeah, great question. So one of those examples is the networking event that I was talking about at the beginning, with the orientation type of the opportunities that we offer. On top of that, it will really depend who you need to meet. And when Professor Özluk mentioned, introducing someone from his network, I gotta tell you, he's not the only one that does that. If you actually need an introduction and if you need support in growing your network with a very targeted and strategic approach, you can reach out to any one of our professors. And if you see that there is a potential connection that they can make for you, trust me, they will. You don't just, to us, working at Minerva is not just a gig. We're not just here because we have nothing else to do. We're here because we're genuinely passionate about our students. We're passionate about the model, and we'll do anything that we can for student success. And I'm not just saying that, like, this is that type of a community that has been built for years to really focus on the students thriving and succeeding in the things that they want to do. Last but not least, there's a lot of sort of like opportunities that students create for themselves. You have no idea to how many conferences our students have gone to by volunteering there, because it is for free if you volunteer. So students go in packs to all of these constant events, which is actually interesting because I'm looking at what they're doing, and so they're volunteering in that first year, but then second, third, and fourth year they're actually sort of like integrating. So they're building their network in in the conference during the volunteering experience that they have, and then I've seen a number of our students actually become speakers in the same conferences several years later, which makes sense because they've grown with the Minerva experience. They have their own projects that they focused on, but also they already have the network from that particular network, right? So like they've already built the relationship with a lot of people coming from that network by consistently and strategically, Trojan horsing themselves into those events. And so this is definitely something that I think is quite unique to what Minerva students are doing, because again, it's all about creating opportunities for you to really learn to use the resources that you have at hand. And this is something that Minerva does like no other institution.
Thank you so much. I also do that with conferences, go as a volunteer to get free access. I was asking because I was really interested about Buenos Aires and Berlin. There are like amazing businesses over there that I would just love to be able to be in the same room as those people. And so I'm really excited about these opportunities.
Check out our LinkedIn page. I forget what exactly the post was, but the students, like, they had a schmoozing thing with like the head of growth at Deutsche Bank or something. So the LinkedIn, they're always posting those examples, and again, it's pretty cool stuff. So check it out.
Yeah, Abdullah, I think I saw your hand up.
I don't really have a question. It's like more of an inquiry kind of thing related to the admissions process. So, in a hypothetical situation, if a person like me is completing the challenge and he's doing the practice challenge, and then he completes that, and there's the text that you can take the practice challenge multiple times, and he clicks continue, and in the Google tab on the top, it's like challenge preparation. It does not say the challenge, and I do that in a hypothetical situation, and it gets submitted to Minerva. It wasn't the practice challenge, it was the challenge itself. So I completed the challenge. The problem was that I was not pretty serious in that because I thought it was a practice round, but it got submitted. I did contact the Minerva admissions office. I hope that's not much big of a deal because that module went pretty good.
I love how you start with like this is a hypothetical situation, but this is
It did happen though. So
So, great question, and I don't have an answer that's gonna make you happy, unfortunately. Like if you
I hope it doesn't really mess up the application process because wasn't aware. Even I rechecked with the Google tab. It said challenge preparation. I was like, fine. I wasn't really focused, but the challenge itself went pretty good, but I wasn't really focused. So I hope it doesn't count as a penalty or something.
it does not count as a penalty. It will be, you know, evaluated whether you meant to complete the challenge or you didn't. The only way that you can actually like ask to for the admissions team to reset a challenge is if something like a technical thing happened, your computer went off or you lost access to internet. And because we record your screen and we record you, it's very easy for us to check and verify. But in cases where, you know, you didn't mean to complete the challenge, unfortunately, there's very little that we can do. However, the good news is that the Minerva's admissions process is holistic, which basically means that there is no one part of the application that will determine whether you will get into Minerva or not. So we'll be taking a look at everything you've done, all of your challenges, all of your accomplishments, your grades, your, I don't know, the context behind your grades, your school, and all of that. And so only by putting it all together, we'll actually have a clear picture of who you are and, you know, whether you actually qualify to be a part of Minerva. So one thing that I can definitely tell you is several things, actually. First of all, don't sweat. You don't know how you did on some of the other challenges. You don't know how you would score on your accomplishments. Just try your best and actually complete the application. The second thing that I can tell you is the worst thing you can do is not complete the application. I see every single cycle. I've worked at Minerva for the past 7 years, and every single cycle, I see students that get discouraged by how they think they did on challenges and they don't complete the application. And it turns out that they actually did better than they thought. Also, in my 7 years, I've never seen a student who was confident about their challenges, like ever. So all of the students that got admitted were not confident about their challenges either. So this is something you've never done before. Don't let it stop you. Don't be dumb. Go and complete the challenges. Go and complete the accomplishments. Last but not least, come to the workshops that we hold, specifically the challenges one and the accomplishments one. The accomplishments one is a proper workshop where you actually, if you come with a list of your accomplishments, we will sit down with you, specifically like you're from my region, so you will receive an invitation from me somewhere closer in about a month for the accomplishments workshop. So I will sit down with all of you and I will walk you through how we'll look at accomplishments, and we'll take a look at what's sort of like the best approach to a particular accomplishment if you have that. So come prepared, you know, use all of the resources and make sure that you actually fill out all of the 6 spaces for accomplishments, because that way you're giving yourself the maximum opportunity to be reviewed from multiple angles. But it happens. It is what it is. Maybe you know, did so well on some of the other things. Maybe you don't actually have to worry about it. All right.
I've already submitted my application for the early action round, so it doesn't really matter. I can't really change it, so it's fine.
It is
Let's
what
hope
it
for
is.
the
Let's see. Let's see.
yeah,
Again, make the application is strong enough.
yeah.
All right,
Thank
Rami.
you.
Thank you so much. So my question is, do you guys have any capstone projects that you really like that Minerva students implemented? Because I remember one of the very first things that I've heard about Minerva students is that they could partner with the Ministry of Education in Buenos Aires, which was an amazing thing to hear in the Minerva University page. So do you guys have one specific project that you really liked that Minerva students implemented somewhere?
I actually love that you mentioned that. That was not a capstone project. That was a civic project. And that particular project, I'm not sure if it was only one with the Ministry of Education of Argentina or it was several. One of the projects that impressed me specifically, but that's just based on the values and, you know, who I am as a person. They worked with the Ministry of Education to create sort of like a campaign for girls that gave birth during their high school years, to get them back into education so that they would still complete their education and still, you know, build a better future for themselves. So it was a heavily cultural, but also heavily gender-based, you know, initiative that was there. So that's one thing that I definitely remember that they did. One of the capstones that, there's two actually capstones that really impressed me. First one was from a student from Georgia, and like in the post-Soviet region, there is a very interesting dynamic with sort of like the private tutoring. And I would imagine that in some countries in MENA, it's actually quite similar as well, where you have the private tutors. And there is sort of like this huge gap in preparation, but also like it's a socioeconomic gap, it's the gap in sort of like the available opportunities and so on and so forth. And so she was trying to bridge that gap. She actually opened up, I don't remember the exact business model. She actually graduated from business, but I don't remember the specifics of the model. But she opened up a sort of like a business to sort of like provide tutoring services to masses, to really, like bridge the gap between the people that actually had access to that private tutoring versus the people who didn't. That was one of the projects. The second project was like my favorite one, I think. The student was interested in sustainability and sustainable fashion specifically. And so she, I don't remember what exactly she took at Minerva. I'm assuming probably business and probably natural sciences with the earth systems and environment. I'm assuming that's what I would do if I was interested in that. And so she created a company called Black to Gray that produces sustainably designed and created clothing. The sweaters, the swag that we have at Minerva is actually her company's doing. And for a very long time, I'm not sure if we're still doing that or not, but this is what we're wearing. So if you see a Minerva sweatshirt, and if it says black to gray or gray to black, something like that, if it says that, that means that this is the piece of attire that was produced by our alumna because she studied sustainable fashion. We don't offer sustainable fashion, but she combined business and environmental science together, and she created a sustainable fashion company. And we are one of her clients.
Thank you so much. I love the response.
Josh, thank you so much for joining us. I feel so bad because this was supposed to be Josh's session, but I took over. So I hope he's gonna forgive me. But it is what it is. Chi-chan, please go ahead.
Okay, so I have a more like personal question. I'm planning to apply for like this like fall 2025. And now I'm studying like in another business school, but it's only my first semester, so I don't know my grades yet. And for the academic performance, I need to select my grading scale. Can I just choose my high school like qualification, like IB?
You
Will this
can.
be-
There is a section where you can add sort of like the additional context about your application. So you just have to type in there that you're enrolled at the university, but there is no grades available yet. And so this is why you're providing all of the information that you have available at the moment, which is your high school information. And so the admissions team will see that note. If they still need something from you, maybe post decision, they will reach out to you. But usually when it comes to other institutions, if you don't have anything to present, which I mean, if you're in the first semester, that's logical, then it is what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Anything else? I know that it's very late for some of you. For me, it's 8 p.m. So,
Yeah,
all right.
same for me, 8 p.m.
Was this helpful? Are you happy you came? Are you happy you spent your evening in our wonderful, brilliant company?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So we do have 2 more sessions. Tomorrow, there's going to be the session on computational sciences, and I'm biased because I am running that one together with a wonderful professor, Lucas Tambasco, who is actually someone who is famous at Minerva because he makes people fall in love with maths, even the people that used to hate maths. So I'm actually curious. I've never had a conversation with him about that, but I am going to put him on the spot tomorrow, and I'm actually going to be like, so how do you do it? How do you make people fall in love with math? I think that's going to be a really fun one. So if you are, potentially interested in computational sciences, or if you just want to, hear a little bit more of my jokes, please feel free to come. and join us. The Friday one is going to be on natural sciences, and natural sciences, again, for those of you that might potentially be interested in, that one is good because you get to talk to the head of the department and ask them why we don't have labs, which is there is particular answers to it, and I think it's important for you to also hear that. Other than that, we're available. My email, you probably received a number of things from me. If you're from my region, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Pakistan is also part of my region. So if you're from my region, you probably received things from me. Even if you're not, feel free to send me a message. Just mention which country you're coming from. It's easier for us to then redirect you to someone who's actually working with your region. But based from what I'm seeing in terms of the names, most of you are my people. So feel free to reach out to me if you have anything else. All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention, and stay in touch. And I mean, for those of you that are applying this cycle, work on your application, use all the resources, and good luck. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.